All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming to today's session of the Evidence-Based Project Management Roundtable. Before we begin, I just want to promote not only the PMI Association, but the Mass Bay Chapter. There are other roundtables that you can attend, which are free, but there are also other events such as, I think they're going to do a hike out in Quincy sometime in October, and they have different events. So it's a great way for people to get to know or network with other project managers or interested in the project management field. And it's a great opportunity to just learn more about the industry and to support the PMI chapter here in Boston. With that, I would like to introduce Sriram, who has been with us multiple other times giving presentations, and he'll be talking about the leadership revolution strategies for navigating technical teams. And before I continue, I just want to tell you that he founded the Agile Training Champions, which helps make a difference for professionals and high school learners to improve themselves. And as an enterprise Agile evangelist at Inflectra, he offers process consulting and product training for all of his clients across many different industries. He's managed the project management office and proposition delivery and organizational excellence at the vice president level and delivered numerous projects and programs for many companies and many industries. He's also written a book called Organized Common Sense, Why do project management skills apply to everyone, which focuses on introducing project and agile principles to high school students through this initiative. So without further ado, I would like to hand it off to our presenter, Sri.
Thank you very much, John, for that very kind and nice introduction. I really appreciate that. So let's start with our presentation. Again, it is always welcome to see all of you and see some familiar faces and give back to the society with PMI Mass Bay. So I really appreciate this opportunity again. So let's go here. So the agenda here is a little introduction, and some of the basic introduction about me is already given. And then I'm going to talk about some of the myths in leading technical teams. Technology seems to be grabbing the day today, and there is a lot of myths around technical leadership. Technology influence and its impact on various fronts that we will see, the role of leadership, and some of the emerging ways of working and questions. Just want to let you know that I also engage myself in small micro independent research through different corporate training, different product and process consulting that I do, as well as many of the product related work that I do as well as part of my scholar practitioner work. I want to bring it back to the society and say, all right, now let's change the name of the game here. That's my goal. So this is more of personal evidence-based discussions over here. So I'll skip this about me here. He already did, but I am working on my second book. It's called Leadership Unleashed, Game-Changing Insights. Expected to come out actually by the end of September, but most likely by end of October it will come. This is where I am synthesizing almost 13 years of my journals on a monthly basis that I've been maintaining journals and talking about these things. And I'm synthesizing all these things, and I'm publishing this book, expected to come out very soon. Hope you will give me the love for this book. That being said, let's jump straight ahead. Myths in leading technical teams. And these are the various patterns that I have observed from many different interactions. This is with senior leaders, C-suite executives, middle managers, and also some technical, teams. So one of the things is technology will replace the need for strong leadership. And again, just take it for what it is. So this always makes me, bring me a chuckle. But we don't need leaders anymore because we have wonderful technology tools that will actually replace them. So we don't need leaders. The next one is only geeks. Geeks by definition here means technical experts. Those that are like strong engineering background or strong QA or technical background and stuff like that. Only those people can lead today's technically driven teams. Okay. The next one is adopting the latest technology means your success is guaranteed. Okay, these are statements that I have really understood from various people. I'm not going to say they are correct. All I'm saying is these are the statements. And the remote work limits productivity and team cohesion. This is another thing that comes from the agile thought processes where co-location is preferred and stuff like that. And so, when we are trying to work remote, it decreases our productivity or limits our inability, innovative thinking and stuff like that. And the team cohesion is also, not there. The next one is servant leadership is for the Scrum Master in Agile. That particular topic alone, I can talk for 1 hour, but I'm just going to, give some basic ideas over here. These are the 5 important myths that have been coming, particularly in light of some of the technology trends for the last few years. So I wanted to, get back into these things. Let's take a look at the first one, which is the technology replaces leadership. Okay. Now, I'm sure technology supports in a lot of data crunching, several types of automation, and many tactical decision making, and generating qualitative insights through document mining, data mining, and all those things. That's all given. I understand that. Okay, but does it replace human interactions? Will it replace the way you and I talk? Will it replace the way you and I are making decisions and stuff like that? When you take a look at some of the foundational thought processes that people have done, I don't think so. In fact, Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft a while back, was not a technically qualified person, but by leadership, by demonstrating leadership, this person was able to bring a lot of different technical teams and shifted the culture to be able to get Microsoft into a place where they almost realized $2 trillion from $300 billion. That's not going to happen overnight because of technology or, several, 1 or 2 years, right? So strong leadership is required to make the critical right decisions and ensure that the right environment, which is the culture, so that we are able to see the unseen in the people. And that's what leadership is, seeing the unseen in the leadership and unpacking that so that they are able to actually deliver more. Your leadership ability, the company's ability, is not limited by what we think we can do, but by enabling and empowering other people to do better. In some of the agile and waterfall thought processes, and in each and every one of those things, I come back and say, self-organization is critical and important. In fact, I even come back and say, waterfall doesn't exist in theory; it exists only in people's mind. And that thought process is what is continuing even in agile approaches, and where people come back and say, incorrect things and inconsistent things. Okay. Now, in the age of AI, leadership is a lot more important than ever because there is a lot of unknowns. When you have a lot of unknowns, that's going to be huge risks. And when there are lots of risks, quality is going to be impacted by the amount of risks that you actually manage proactively and as well as reactively, right? When it comes to that. And there is a lot of ethical use of technology. Is this the right tool at the right time? Is it the right way it is implemented for the right target market? And if you go and talk to somebody, whose, face had a scar, and they were not allowed entry because of facial recognition software, the story is not going to be pretty, right? So technology is needed, but technology will not replace leadership. And so organizations with a stronger leadership are likely to adopt the right use of right technology at the right time so that the business goals are met. And none of the business goals are leaving customers on the table, unattended. If that is the goal, then we are probably looking at the wrong company in the first place to begin with. So in my humble opinion, high touch is always a lot greater than high tech. I'm not saying high tech is less important or not important. All I'm saying is high touch that comes from leadership is a lot more important and cannot be replaced by high tech that comes from technology. Okay. Let's talk about the second one, which is going to be the geeks can lead technical teams. Okay, when you take a look at that particular myth, technology is important. And it is for here to say, I'm giving you a couple of examples here. Where would we all be without internet today? Several years back, when I had to come to the United States and I had to go to the United States Educational Foundation to find out what universities to apply, what are the concentrations in these places and stuff like that. There is only one book, and pretty much the entire state has to congregate on that particular library and look at that book. So we were reserving that book like 6 months in advance, and we were only getting 15 minutes of that book. So we all used to take turns to come and block the book for so many hours so that we will cross-reference the notes and stuff like that. But in today's world, go to www, you have access to what the universities are, what concentrations they give, who are the faculty that teaches, what is the syllabus behind that, and you have all this information, right? So technology has really enabled us in a lot of different ways, and not to mention smart devices at this point. Right, pretty much most of us are born with the smartphones today, or as soon as they are born, we are reserving their Facebook or Instagram, stuff, accounts and stuff like that. So that's the world we are constantly moving forward. But are teams made up of robots or people? There will also be a robotic engineer who is made up of completely robot, a machine workforce. But machine workforce is about 20%. All those chat GPTs, the Llama engine, the machine learning, the artificial intelligence enabled robots and chatbots and stuff like that. They are not representing 100% of the capacity of people. They're only representing 20% of the capacity of the people. So still, there are people. If you remove people, there are no projects. And no projects, no work gets done, right? So strategic thinking, business level thinking, what is the business value for this? What is the type of customers we are serving and stuff like that? That kind of strategic thinking, much beyond SWOT analysis, is really important. Like, when you take a look at those Porter's 5 forces, PESLE analysis and things like that, these things are not going to be completely replaced by ChatGPT. And ethical decision making, are we doing the right thing? And which comes into factor in terms of the beneficence, the non-maleficence, the justice, the autonomy, and even explainability and stuff like that. These are all digital ethical principles that needs to be actually factored in when you are making AI decisions. So building the talent towards that, not necessarily, hey, do I know Python? Yes, great. If you need to know Python, if you need to know Power BI, if you need to know a certain specific tool, that is great. But the tool does not provide you all these things. The tool only takes you to some extent, and then you have to figure out all these other things yourself. And when I say, hey, what are the digital ethical principles in the AI teams that are talking about? And they say, oh, what are you talking about? Digital ethics? I don't know what it is. Then how can these solutions be actually the solutions? So we need to prepare the talent, and that lies as with all of us as leaders. And I'm not telling it is going to be leaders at the top. It is all of us to demonstrate that level of leadership commitment so that we are preparing the right solutions, right? So you don't have to be an expert in every field to lead a team. In fact, I have led a team of healthcare practitioners. I have led a team of nurse practitioners, which are not necessarily focusing on these areas. They talk medical information. They talk about insights, pharmacokinetics, and stuff like that. But I don't need to be technically knowledgeable in all these areas, but I need to know what matters to them. I need to know what value we are generating and lead them to that particular place. And these are some of the quotes from Mary Barra from GM, who provided the same thought process, who led the electronic and autonomous vehicle division to success, but she was not an engineer by profession, right? So when you take a look at that, the secret to successful AI lies in how we are bringing the interpersonal skills and the cross-functional domain expertise to be able to keep everyone successful. And in fact, we are seeing this repeatedly. In one of the recent conferences that I attended in healthcare field again, HIMSS it is called, they basically said, leadership first, technology next. Those are the exact choice of words that they were talking about in a AI focus a track within the conference on healthcare. Right. So what am I trying to say? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, and that is all about leadership. It's not about the cookie cutter project management. I have a Microsoft project schedule. I have all the tasks, and now you go and ask like what percentage of task is done. Yeah, 99% of the task is done, but the remaining 1% will take 2 years. That's not the way we want to operate. Third one, adopting latest technology guarantees success. Now, there is a lot of frameworks that exist. Like, Lean is a framework, Agile is a framework, project management is a framework, Scrum is a framework. All these things exist. And there are differences from frameworks to methodologies to methods and stuff like that. I won't go into all the details here. There is discussions around, the Bruce Tuckerman's forming, storming, norming, performing, adjourning models. There is discussions about the VRIO framework for internal sense assessment, SWOT analysis. I can give you lots of different tools over here, but these things exist. But just because they exist, does it mean that we have actually been able to provide software or quality healthcare error-free without any problem? Then why do these frameworks, promoting? What are they promoting? See, framework is nothing more than a guideline. It's not prescriptive. It comes and says how to make pizza. But depending upon what are the ingredients, what is the type of oven that you have, and how you would like to make, and who are the people that you are going to serve the pizza, the way you make pizza will be different from the way I make pizza. But the generic guidelines are pretty much the same. And then on top of it, that's methodology. And then you are coming and adding some methods like, I will do these things while I'm cooking something else, when I'm adding something else and stuff like that. So there are some methods that get added. So Kanban is a method. Kanban is neither a methodology or a framework, but people don't understand all these things. That's the reason why Kanban can be adopted within the Scrum for supporting organization, and we call Scrumban. People don't understand these things, but they actually understand whatever part of the thing that they are seeing, and then they continue to move forward with that. That's the reason why we have everything that is compromised quality. That's the reason why we have escaped defects, right? If you look at some of the agile state of agile things, the reason behind going to agile is to limit the time box, right? So that we will limit the amount of scope we will take in the 2 weeks. But still, at the end of the 2 weeks, we are not producing a valuable increment, and the software is buggy. And the work product that we are releasing is full of quality errors. So what's going on? So the latest technology does not necessarily mean that it is great success, right? So take a look at examples of Google Glass. Wonderful thing, but the market wasn't ready. Yeah, it may be wonderful to see, in Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Terminator movie wearing this and, figuring out everything. But I don't think the privacy considerations were really factored in. Like, I don't want people to wear the Google Glass, look at me and say, oh, you are from this particular part of the world. You are, so-and-so, your, private informations or these details, you are running. I don't want people to know like that. So it wasn't prime to the market. Yes, we are now introducing more and more and more. I'll give you an example of the virtual reality. I want to introduce a virtual reality simulation for for leadership classes. And when I went and looked at some of the virtual simulation companies and said, like, this is the thought I have in my mind, I would like to have simulations done this way, and they gave me a quote of $50,000 to $60,000. It's not affordable. It's not accessible at this point. So those are some of the biggest troubles that we have. Technology does not guarantee you success. We need to actually factor in a lot of other elements into the fold, right? So technology is nothing more than a tool. In terms of people working together, motivating each other, the teacher is the most important person. This is Bill Gates' thought process. So if the teacher is the most important person facilitating the discussion that needs to happen, and for that, technology can be present, technology need not be present. Right? So success goes through a lot of life cycle stages. right? I'm sure all of you know this product development, thing. Initially, people just resist this and, they don't want it. And then there is going to be an early adopter. And then, the majority is accepting it, this, and then the late adopters. And then, people are actually, leaving this product in the first place to begin with. And we talk about Moscow principles, the must to do, should to do, could to do, want to do, the Kano principles. And then we are trying to bring all these thought process here. But at the end of the day, what is important is that we understand the product life cycle of the product, service, or result that we are delivering, and then factor these things in terms of the benefits to the performing organization and the value to the end customer. So we need to go back to the drawing board and start thinking in terms of these myths telling, like, if I use ChatGPT, I'll be smart. Or if you use ChatGPT, you will get your, grade, but you will not be smart. Right? So as using a tool does not make one technical. Just because you use Microsoft Project does not mean that you are a technical project manager. Right? So using a tool does not make you technical. Similarly, using a specific technology always does not guarantee you success. So we need to actually debunk all these myths and start thinking in terms of what we should be really doing. Right? So let's take a look at the next one, which is about remote work limits, productivity, and team cohesion. Okay, so there are lots of different platforms today that are available. We have Teams, we have GitLab, we have GitHub, we have SharePoint, all these things where we are able to do this, push and pull communication, pushing documents, pulling documents, and stuff like that. But even if you, with all these things, we are sending emails, here is a link. Oh, that was not the link. Here is that link. Here is the chat link. So we are now actually creating email noise, chat noise. Why we wanted to go into the co-location? Primarily because of that asthmatic communication. You hearing what I am telling to somebody else and say, hey, I can come and help you. And that process is gone. And this is one of the reasons why we really have to start thinking in terms of, are we using the right generation of tools to be able to support ourselves? See, the concepts like business process outsourcing, application service provisioning, partnership arrangements, which is the sixth force of Porter, which is the complementary forces, 24/5 or 24/7 support that we need. All these things are here to stay. If you go to a healthcare facility, emergency care facility, and they say, oh, it's closed because we are on Sunday, where would you get healthcare? Right? So certain service-oriented organizations will be supported 24/7 for the most part. So these things are going to exist. There is a reason why we can tap into talent from other parts of the world. And I don't want to bring the economic, thought process here, because people can tap into other parts of the world even for, knowledge capital, not just, investment capital as once upon a time we used to do with foreign direct investments and outsourcing and stuff like that. So we are a lot, improved at this particular point in terms of how the globalization has improved all these concepts. So remote work is going to stay here. And please don't think it is because of COVID. Even before COVID, we used to do remote work. In 1999, when I was doing project management, I used to have please don't laugh at me, the VHS cassettes that many of us have maybe used to. We used to send the VHS cassettes of how we are all team members, and then we'll send it all the way to different part of the world, and they will do the same thing, record it and send it to us, so that we know who you are looking, what you are looking like. In today's world of all these Zooms and GoToMeeting, Citrix, and WebEx, we didn't have those things at that point. So the only way they will know is by looking at a photograph or by looking at a video that is actually made. So these things do exist. The remote ability to work existed long before the pandemic made it, much more accessible and much more needed and stuff like that. Why do you think organizations therefore focus on application lifecycle management tool? Not one tool, but a tool that covers the entire spectrum of work that is getting done in this company, in this organization, because it increases the transparency, and transparency is one of the empirical pillars of agility. What are the three empirical pillars? Transparency, inspection, and adaptation. But if we continue to work in our own silos, like I have a Microsoft project and I have all my schedules updated in Microsoft project, but somebody who wants to know what will happen if I push it by 2 days, what will be the impact to the project? Then I have to go back to the project manager because that person does not have access to Microsoft project license. Or if you want to simulate something in the risks in a particular model, and that particular model is not going to say what kinds of test cases or testing will be impacted, what kinds of future backlog will be impacted, what is the business value impact as a result of this for the programs and portfolios. Well, we need to be able to tell the same truth. But if you're all siloed, then we are creating more work to integrate these things in the name of, hey, I have this comfort zone tool. Right? That's the reason why today the world is moving more and more towards the application lifecycle management, which is like the product lifecycle management thought process. So a Chinese travel organization, I won't give you the name here, but there's a Chinese travel organization that reported a lot more higher productivity by having workers that work remotely. They were not actually asking people to come to the travel site and do all the work, but in fact, they were supporting it throughout the different parts of the country. They increased a lot more sales and revenue as a result of that. So there is proof in the results. And similarly, if you look at some of the movies like the Luca, which I hope some of you may have seen, but that's a nice movie. Disney movie that was completely 100% made during the pandemic. So where was osmotic communication? It was much more about interactive communication. So, project management recognizes 3 types of communication. I'm not talking about verbal and non-verbal, formal and informal, those kinds of things, but I'm talking about push communication, pull communication, and interactive communication. One is for broadcasting, other one is for multicasting, the other one is for getting work done. And that interactive communication is what is a lot more required. And tools today are making it possible, but are we leveraging the right tools at the right time so that we are able to make these things happen? People that have leveraged it have seen results, right? So work is no longer a place you go to. It is what you do. We are all working when we are actually, going up and down the elevators. 8 to 5, you are supposed to be working, in your facility, but we are taking time off to go and see doctors or, take our children to childcare, and, all these things are happening. The legalities around insurances and all those things are also adjusting as a result of these practices. So remote work can be the future of productivity if only we focus on the right outcomes rather than the location. Again, this is coming from Satya Nadella, not me, right? So when you start taking into these things, Agile is meant to adapt. Agile is a framework. Then are we truly agile if we fail to adopt the emerging technologies in our remote ways of working without compromising productivity and team cohesion? I have sat on a number of retrospectives, and they will identify we have to do certain things differently. And what happens to that? We have to do something differently. That never gets prioritized. And it just, to me, it is nothing more than a digital waste. And people come and say, oh, I love Agile primarily because we are able to do retrospectives every 2 weeks. In project management, we used to do, postmortem at the end of the project. Take a look at PMBOK and tell me if there is one occurrence of postmortem occurring. There is none. But we practiced it the wrong way. What's the point of having a lessons learned after everybody is dead? That's what postmortem is. Project is done. We are not able to incrementally benefit from the lessons that we have learned. In fact, it even talks about lessons learned register. I ask people, where is your journal? Where is your lessons learned register? And what are you talking about, Sriram? We don't know. And they have PMP very recently. So are we really understanding the principles? Today's world is full of contracts. In an agile ways, we have a lot more additional contracts. But we don't even get into procurement domains. So how are we then promoting this concept of remote productivity, remote cohesion, and all those things with contract workers that are actually, in a different place and they are on a time and, material T&M basis? How are we promoting people to actually say, hey, we are using a cost plus incentive fee or cost plus award fee kind of thing? How do we do this? Where are we actually looking at the, the economic price adjustment considerations in contracts? We don't do all these things, and then remote work suffers. And then we come back and say remote work is limiting productivity and team cohesion. So let's practice what really needs to be practiced. Let's learn what really needs to be learned. So sitting together is not productivity. All of us sitting together and doing work is not productivity, but engaging with others, understanding risks, understanding the impact of quality, understanding the differences of how we can work together, towards the business value, understanding the strategy. How do I engage with other people? That is where you are demonstrating leadership as a team member within your team. We all want career promotions, but we don't want to work for it. We just want that to automatically come to us. Servant leadership, this is one of my biggest things. Servant leadership is for Scrum Master in agile ways of working, right? Robert Greenleaf started this in 1977. He proposed the concept. He was working in AT&T. He came up with this concept of, servant leadership, which was much more about giving back to the society, including the team, which is considered as a society. This is lot earlier than agile was conceptualized. Agile came in the early 2000s, right? But when you take a look at this, to come and say agile coach or scrum master is the one that needs to be a servant leader, the rest of them need not be. To me, that's like, you don't understand leadership, you don't understand agility. You cannot be talking about both of them anymore, right? So can anyone become a servant leader by attending 2 days of Scrum Master class? They talk about this. CSM, whatever organization you got your Scrum Master from, doesn't matter. I asked them, what is, do you know Scrum Master? The servant leadership principle in a Scrum Master. And they say, yeah, I attended CSM class. Okay, tell me more about it. What should the servant master do? Servant leader do? When they come and say, oh, we have to remove impediments, we have to be there for the team. I said, like, okay, what should that person do? What are the 10 characteristics of a servant leadership? The concept understanding of listening, empathy, healing, awareness, persuasion, conceptualization, foresight, stewardship, commitment to individual people's growth, and building the larger community. These are the 10 important characteristics of servant leadership. Can't understand any one of them from a certified Scrum Master. And did any one of these principles apply only to Scrum Master? Can a product owner need not listen? Can a team member need not listen? Can a manager of an organization not listen? Everybody should be a servant leader. So why would you come back and say servant leadership is for Scrum Master? Right? So several organizations have already practiced this. Southwest is the greatest example over here. They've already practiced this where they empowered, enabled people to act like servant leaders in their own organizations. We have seen the proof already, right? So while Scrum Master is responsible for walking the talk, servant leadership is to be practiced by everybody, not just limited to one person alone. Okay, so while being served, the goal of a servant leader is to ask, are people becoming healthier, wiser, freer, and more autonomous so that you can eliminate yourself? Leaders, therefore, build leaders, right? So now let's debunk all these theories. I've already given enough information. Now let's talk about the technology thing. How can we practice leadership? But in order to do that, we need to understand the technology spectrum a little bit. The technology spectrum today requires these elements: interoperability, virtualization of assets, decentralization of the assets, real-time capability, service orientation, and modularity. These are the fundamental fourth industrial revolution space areas. But when I say these things, nothing resonates with people. But when I say the products, services, and results that come out of these things, everybody knows everything. Oh, robotic process automation, RPA, Internet of Things, IoT, simulation with Monte Carlo and other methods, cybersecurity, systems integration, big picture thinking, design thinking, and all those things, cloud computing, where resources are on the cloud. The 3D technology, big data, the 4 important elements of the big data, augmented reality and virtual reality. All these things are the results of understanding these things. Now, you don't need to be a technical expert to understand how these things work, but you need to understand these bigger pieces as well, right? So when you understand these elements, you can start appreciating where the world is currently going. Now, this is what people are all thinking, like remote and hybrid work models are emerging, AI and automation is constantly emerging, cloud-based collaborations is constantly emerging, and this is what people are constantly looking at from a technology angle. But who uses the technology? People. Who benefits from the technology? People, right? So you need to start looking at the other elements. What are the physical and mental health of our employees who are internal customers, as well as our clients and customers and their end users? What are the social inequity imbalances that we are creating as a result of servicing certain populations alone and removing other populations from our considerations? Workplace diversity, equity, unique, all these things are promoting the concept. We talk about DEI, but what does DEI actually, end? It creates that belongingness. And there's a lot of immigration-related consideration that are coming into play. There's geopolitical challenges that is going around the world where people are moving across the borders and stuff like that. How are our solutions impacting them? And there are trades and tariffs being imposed, currency risks, inflation, many other, demonetization. All these things are going all over the place. And how do we understand all these things so that we understand the fiscal challenges, the budgeting, the invoicing, the funding, and all those challenges associated with our products? Now, if we don't understand these equations, how are we able to actually implement remote hybrid working models? How do we bring, the right level of AI and automation, the right level of cloud computing? Right? So all these things are so interconnected. They're not standing alone. And all those previous things that I was mentioning about the 4th industrial revolution, this is the space. None of these things is technical related. It's all leadership components. And we talk about that all the time, right? And now when you take a look at this and the left and the right, what am I seeing? Skill gaps. People are not prepared adequately. They are not able to do decision making. They are looking up to somebody else to make the decisions for them because they are afraid of failing fast. Agile is not about failing fast. Agile is about failing forward. There is no leadership coaching. And as soon as I say leadership level coaching, people say, well, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Can you give me some examples here? So let's take a look at some of the foundational things, the BACCM model, the business analysis core competency model. When you take a look at this, this is what the BACCM is basically coming and telling. When you have a need, we need to create a solution. But that solution should be of good value. These are my orange triangle. But that's the only focus that we look at from a technology standpoint. But as soon as you replace this with a leadership component, who are the stakeholders that needs to be engaged with? In my book on organized common sense, I basically say, tell me about the stakeholders that you have identified for your project and your engagement plan. I will tell you how successful you are. This is more or less analogous to tell me about your friends. I'll tell you who you are, thought process. So what are the stakeholders? And will all stakeholders have the same context? Everything like IT sees the business sees the marketing side sees the other business units. No, they don't speak the same language, and it needs to be contextualized. And what is that context going to be focused on? As soon as one person says, oh, this is more important, this is less important, we would like to do more of this and less of this, changes are coming in. So the needs, the solution, and value have to be modified along with the stakeholders, context, and changes. And that's leadership. BACCM model is so clear. It doesn't go and say, this is technology, this is leadership, and stuff like that. But to me, this is so clear. Whenever you see people, leadership comes into play. right? So management generalist and delivery generalist. We talk about those, T-shaped skills, right? Like we still keep talking about T-shaped skills, but world has moved from T-shaped to pie-shaped to E-shaped skills, right? So management generalist, people that know a lot more additional things. How do I manage team? How do I manage people? How do I make them, deliver the work and stuff like that? From a productivity and throughput and all those things. And then there are delivery generalists who are talking about, team leader, QA leader, data scientist, all those members. And then if you come back and start looking at the next level, which is management specialist and delivery specialist, this is when you become more like a consultant. I'm able to apply this logic in multiple fields, in multiple angles, in multiple, thought processes, one from the management side, one from the delivery side. You could go into, any one of those constructs. Right now, this is where we are emerging, and that gaps needs to be addressed. Where what the world actually needs today, when you take a look at all these thought process, 85% of the firms have a cloud first principles. They want to put everything on the cloud. And 95% of them are already expanding to cloud systems. These are all, latest findings. 58% of the American workers will work remotely at least once a day. That's a big percentage. That's a big percentage. All this concept of osmotic communication is going to be challenged now. 76% of the IT decision makers face critical gaps. And now we are talking about technology people. They are telling, I am seeing big technology gaps in people. And these critical skills are, how do I let these people see the business objectives? It's not about your knowledge of Python that matters to me. It's about the knowledge of the solution you will develop for my business using Python. 97% of the organizations have experienced some kind of a cyber attack. And if you don't believe that, look at your own email. So many spams. So many text spams these days. So more and more, there is concepts of risk is getting more and more prevalent, right? So what does those things translate to? We will have a big turnover of people leaving or jumping ships, which means how do I make sure that these people are happy and continue to be in the role? Because it takes more time to hire a person, train that person, and make that person to be ready, only to see that person leave. 81% of the employees who work remotely will choose to do so. You are talking about 58% of the American workers. Now globally telling, people are saying like, I have more people working remote, and if you tell them like you have to come to the office, they are going to revolt. Which means if you put those kind of requirements, only 20% of them is going to actually adhere. 81% of the people will again fall into the 20% where they will jump the ships. 43% of the employees are losing trust in their organizational leaders to act in their best interest. In fact, what's happening is what's in it for me is not getting addressed. This is the reason why I said employees are also internal customers. And all the things that I was mentioning, there are references here. And so I have references as well here. So let's take a look at role of leadership real quick, moving towards the leadership revolution, right? There is the 4 I's of transformational leadership. This was conceptualized in 1978 by Burns, and we have many people have talked about this since then. And the 4 I's are individual consideration, intellectual stimulation, and inspirational motivation, and idealized influence. So how do you walk the talk? By making sure that you inspire people, by making sure that they are working on some stimulating challenges, and by making sure that you give individual consideration. And those are important in technical leadership. And then I started doing some more evidence-based, research and talking to other people and stuff like that. And I landed on this, which is about technology adoption. There are 4 I's of technology adoption, which was pretty recent, 2020. And they are talking about intentionality of purpose. How do you make sure that, the purpose is intent and you understand that intent, which we talk about as business strategy alignment. Integration of human and AI resources. This is like interdependencies, making sure that they are all working together. Implementation of the engagement across multiple people on multiple dimensions, right? And indications of performance. And we're not talking immediately KPIs. We are going much beyond the KPIs, the critical success factors, and the objectives and key results. Right? So there are 4 I's on the leadership side, and there are 4 I's on the technology side. Well, I was thinking like, why can't we marry them? Right? But before that, I started doing some more additional thought processes, and I came up with this concept, like many people kept going back to the situational leadership. And trust me, situational leadership is not bad. It is good. It is contingency based. Remember, this was originally conceived in 1969. It has gone through its own stages as well. But if you look at this, they are focusing more about how do I categorize people as D1, D2, D3, D4 in different development levels, as well as in multiple supporting levels. So accordingly, depending upon the level of maturity of the team and the depth of interaction that is really required, I will choose either one of these: delegating, supporting, coaching, or directing styles. So if I were to go and take a look at the agile team or a scrum team or a project management team, should you be delegating tasks? Should you be supporting them with the task? Should you be coaching them on the task? Should you be directing on the task? People are not able to answer. They say, oh, we are situational leader. Why are you a situational leader? Because we found out that servant leadership isn't very helpful for us, and so we are moving to situational leadership. Now, what are you trying to do? You're just jumping from one school of theory to another school of theory to see, will anything work? But we are without understanding how these schools of theories are working together in the first place to begin with. Right? Now, let's take a look at what PMI PDU talent triangle has been talking about. We've been talking about ways of working, business acumen, power skills. All these areas are really required. We don't want a project manager who is completely, technical, but does not understand how to work with different teams, does not understand leadership from the power skill side of it, and does not understand the strategic acumen. Why we do what we do. Right? So even PMI Talent Triangle has been purporting this, concept of let's make sure that we are all on the same page on this. All of them are equally required, right? So leaders have to customize their style. There is no one size fit all here. You can't come and say, I tried servant leadership, it doesn't work. I tried situational leadership, it doesn't work. Maybe you have to do both. You need to be able to evolve your own style based upon all these things over there, right? These are all frameworks, guidance, and stuff like that. But I feel like, the 4 I's of transformational leadership is a very good foundation. If you don't understand those things, you're not going to be able to find out when to delegate, when to coach, when to support, when to, direct, right? So here is where I came back with my final proposition, that I've been talking to other people and stuff like that, which I'm proposing here as well. So my current predictions are these things. In the next few years, things are already happening. Attracting and retaining talent is going to be a major problem. Training them for continuous learning, guided continuous improvement is going to be the problem. Automation and quality focus, scaling the agile principles across multiple units, and then increase IT expense being spent on people, and then API governance, application programming interface. That's the interoperability that I was talking about. And the prescriptive AI ML, the keyword is prescriptive, not predictive, right? You are telling what they have to be doing, not necessarily telling like, oh, this data tell me this, that kind of thing. And then outcome-based product management, making sure that the connection to value is there. And then environmental awareness, global, environmental awareness over here. And then creative metaverse, which is like, creating your own digital twin. These things are all the things that are emerging that I have published about these things as well here. So now I put these 2 things together and say 4 I's of this, 4 I's of that, and the emerging technology space and stuff like that. And I said like, okay, the 4 I's of the technology spectrum on the column, and the 4 I's of the leadership spectrum are on the rows. So I started writing these things, and I tried my different approaches to present this in a differently, but this table structure provided to be the best way. So I stuck with this. So idealized influence, I won't go into each and every one of those things. Lead by example, responsible AI. We talk about this. AI adoption with the strategic business objectives, the portfolio value, the business value, and stuff like that. Integration of AI with human components, creating a culture of what needs to be the thing that we need to do as part of our AI work or our machine learning work. Establish proper level of workflows to guide your decision autonomy. On the implementation of the risk, resources, and collaboration, advocate and train on risk management a lot more, right? And then promote self-organized resource allocation so that you are understanding the vendor neutral and vendor specific, industry neutral and industry specific, standards, regulations, and guidelines. Indications of performance. What is the difference between OKR, CSF, and KPI? Objectives and key results, key performance indices, and critical success factors. How are you promoting lessons learned through the concept of AI? Individual consideration. How are you adapting these things to your team's needs as well as your company's needs, and even your industry's needs? How are you actually bringing these things as part of your balanced scorecard for individual growth and assessment? How are you innovating with people, process, technology, and organizational levels? How are you actually bringing their own strengths? How do you lead with their strengths? And how do you ensure that you are removing blockers? And how do you bring risk-based product, adjustment, market research, experiments, proof of concepts, and all those things in your decision making? Don't give them the answer, but tell them, what would you do in my absence? How would you go about it? Monitor and acknowledge the fail forward. Very important, folks. Fail forward, not fail fast. And how do you make sure that you are able to prioritize recognition over reward? Right? Similar concepts with the intellectual simulations. What are you doing to challenge them so that they are better off and they can see the unseen in themselves? How are you promoting the concepts of, the Porter's value chain, thought processes, Porter's, forces that actually work on your product? Ask them, what are the market impediments for this particular product that you are developing? Coaching, how do you coach? Coaching, mentoring, training, they are all completely different. How do you promote a culture? Culture is not necessarily what you consume, but also what you produce. Challenge the team to think beyond the data, right? Similarly, for the inspirational motivation, how do you walk the talk? You can come and tell, please learn something when you are not learning something. How do you motivate these things towards the benefit of others, like bringing concepts, like examples over here that we are trying to do here right now. So evidence-based, knowledge sharing and stuff like that. And what action items comes out of these things? Creating a sense of purpose and belongingness and leading small pilot efforts, incubators and stuff like that. And as a result, you are finally focusing on how do I demonstrate the use of this proper technology with proper, checks and balances in place. So my recommendations as a result of this, these are just my recommendations at this particular point. This may change, but embrace continuous learning, develop your digital fluency, increase your data analytic literacy, understand the security foundation, cybersecurity particularly. Risk management things have to evolve much more than what we are talking about in the problem solving and decision making domain. Human skills that needs to complement all the things that we are trying to do with respect to technology. Resilient leadership that we have to develop within ourselves. Bring the concepts of ethics that we have to bring in any solution that we are actually developing, including responsible AI. Enhance the AI concepts much more with AI, emotional intelligence, and demonstrate leadership level communication. These are all the things that I have been, thinking as how you bring the leadership revolution. Now, with that, I'll summarize this. It's not the technology that will hurt others. It's the leadership intent of the person that uses this technology. So with that, I will turn it over to you, Jack and John, for any questions for me.
Oh, fantastic, was John. That was a great presentation, a lot of ideas and food for the thought. What do you think, John?
Yes, excellent. I wish you can come to my class and speak about that and the leadership. And you're giving me some books to read as well, not only your own, but Mr. Greenleaf's as well. So very impressive. Yeah.
And I'm always available, John. If you need me to come to your, just tell me. If it's virtual, I can do that as well. So
thank you.
Well, what's important here is your idea and models for balancing technology and the human side of things, and linking all of this to the PMI talent triangle, and no one size fits all. Every business, every organizations must seek the balance that work for them, and that's actually very sound advice. Thank you, John. Do we have any questions in the chat?
Not about the presentation, but about reporting the PDUs. So you can go to the PMI chapter, and you can. It's easy. It's not that difficult. You can self-report the information, put the information in, and it'd be fine. I've never had an issue with it. They'd never come back. So.
Yeah. So Sriram, Dr. Rajagopalan, you are an established professional in your field, and you've been speaking all over the world. Now, if you are starting to build your career today, what approach would you take?
Oh, that's very good. Yeah, it's part of career building or your brand building, I should say. The most important thing is not who you know, but who knows you.
Mm-hmm.
So from that angle, I will start building my network at this point. And by network, I don't mean network on Facebook or Instagram and things like that. That's not what network is. Like coming to these kinds of evidence-based PMI roundtables, or going to the chapter meetings, going to the symposiums, and your face, your voice, your name has to become more familiar with other people. Then when you are going and telling like, oh, I attended Jack's presentation or John's presentation, it was very lovely. And then, you follow those people, some people that you will resonate with, your ways of thinking will resonate with certain people, and just follow them along, for some period of time. When you do that, you will find other people in their network. When you attend those things, you will attend, other people. So that's the way. And I will tell you one more thing, that when you are doing this, please take time out of yourself. Invest in your career. Do something like volunteering. Many people come and ask me, Jack, Sriram, you seem to have experience in the fintech or in the technology world, in construction, in medical, in pharmaceutical. But you worked only for 30 years. So how did you get so much experience? Volunteering.
Mm-hmm.
I go to volunteering. Somebody with a marketing angle will come and ask me a question. Like, I'm not a marketing person, but I will think about what I can do for that, and I'll get somebody else help, and they will provide this, they will provide some suggestions, and now I'm building. And so as a result of this, to get back to your original question, Jack, people call you and say, hey, Sriram is a good person, or I know this person who has repeatedly showed up on these things. This person can actually represent, directors of Speakers Bureau. That's how I ended up being a directors of Speakers Bureau. When I came to Massachusetts, I went and asked PMI Mass Bay Chapter. I relocated from Chicago to Boston. What can I do? And they said like, oh, we don't have any volunteer positions available. I said like, I'll just still come anyway. So I paid my money to chapter dues, and I came there and I started attending these things. And I did absolutely nothing but, sit around the table and ask them questions like, what kind of topics would you like to see covered? If you were coming and, presenting, what would you like to present? These kinds of questions I asked, and I compiled all these things. And after 3 chapter meetings, I went back to the PMI board and said, hey, these are things that I have found out that people are asking for. And they said like, oh, we will create a position called Directors of Speakers Bureau. Can you be in that role? And you can collect this more formally. I'm like, sure. Pretty soon, it emerged. So create the opportunities. There is a very popular saying. I don't know who said this. There's a very popular saying. If opportunity does not knock, build a door. Build the door. And
I like that. That's good. That's a good one.
Right. Absolutely. And the idea of networking building, relationship building, I believe is part of what some people call social capital. That you build some days means it may have some return in the future. So that's fantastic. This is these are great ideas. Thank you very much. Now, do you have any questions for Sriram? We are on top of the hour. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. No questions. If we can raise a hand or.
There is something coming up. Speaking of networking, would love to connect with others here. Yes, Morgan, please do. That's the whole idea behind this. But just don't connect with me and say, hey, I connected with you, but tell me why you connected with, what we can, do to collaborate and stuff like that. Let's make the world a better place just by our connections.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I'd like to say many thank yous to all of you for being here this afternoon. And it's always a pleasure to see you all. We're here every month, the third Thursday of the month at the same time. And we look forward to seeing you. It's a great platform if you'd like to speak, if you'd like a topic to be considered for this discussion, please reach out to us. John and I, we always respond to your messages. So that's what we expect. Thank you very much. And thank you, John, for everything.
Thank you. Have a great week.
Awesome. Thank you, Jose, Sriram, and we'll be in touch.
Yes, definitely. Thanks, Jack and John, for the opportunity again. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.